Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me, as always, is Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Not much, Mike, man. How are you?
I'm great because the NBA sprung to life once again over the pounding of the keyboard on Twitter. Kyrie just got traded. How exciting is this that basketball just never dies, it never ends?
I just love how it starts with one little tweet, and then it's just a million.
Oh, it explodes.
And it's like in minutes, right? It's like, oh man, nothing's happening. Boom, Shams drops a tweet, and then it's just end of the world, man.
Shams is having the MVP of the offseason for sure. That's easily known. But it was weird because I was at work and someone asked me about the Kyrie trade, and I was like, that old news. Like, who cares about that? And then I realized, no, you moron. Like, that literally just happened yesterday, and you've just gorged yourself on Twitter for 2 full hours and taken every single take and every look at it into your brain that it feels like that's already a done topic and you could just move on to the next thing.
Oh, I'm with you. And it's weird how, like, I don't know, I go through progressions of I see it and then I think about it a little bit and then I put it away for a little bit and then I think about it more and then it's just weird.
Well, you're going to have to think about it now because that is exactly what we're going to talk about today. We've been saving our Cleveland preview for this Kyrie trade. And coincidentally, Boston was the next team we were actually going to review. So if you're just joining us, is this one of the first podcasts you've listened to? We're doing NBA team previews for the fantasy season, for the upcoming season. We've already done a handful of teams. So go back on whatever you've downloaded this podcast on and check out the last 3 episodes. And we've knocked out quite a few. I don't even think we're approaching halfway through the entire NBA.
We have 11 teams. Come on now, get with it.
It's 11. I got a lot of numbers in my head. And the first number that I'm gonna ask you about is, what is Kyrie going to be wearing in Boston? Is he going to keep the same number?
He's wearing number 11.
Oh, you know more than I do. Yeah, you usually do. So I'm not that surprised.
Yes, he's going to wear number 11.
Wow. Let's actually start with Cleveland because we've been waiting on them, and I think this is the harder one to figure out. So Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder and the first round Brooklyn pick moved to Cleveland, which is a hell of a haul, considering what happened with Jimmy Butler and with Paul George earlier this year. Now, don't get me started on why Danny Ainge is a moron, and don't get me started on how he could have had both Kyrie and Jimmy Butler, and don't get me started on how he gave up way too much in this trade and could have gave way less for Jimmy Butler or Paul George for that matter. I don't want to get into it because I don't want to remember how bad the Bulls are, and that if Garpax would have waited, like I always said from the beginning of that damn trade, if they just would have waited for something to happen, maybe something like this would have happened. So,
well, let's recuse the Bulls from this and say that I think that Boston in the long run has a shot to come out ahead in this deal.
Wow, that is a hot take.
Okay, and I wrote about this a little bit yesterday, and then you can find the article if you're really interested in what I really had to say about it. But
where's that article at? Where is it?
Well, you can find it on my Twitter. I wrote it for A Royal Pain, which is a website about the Sacramento Kings. But I sometimes just write some general NBA stuff just to get it off my chest. So here's my thought process. Can we agree that Isaiah Thomas had a career year?
Yes.
He's 29 years old. He's not going to get any better than that.
It's 5'6".
Yeah, he's very short. Okay. Jay Crowder, pretty much all his numbers regressed a little bit last year. So, and he was never really expected to be a great player to begin with. So, is it possible we've seen his peak value?
Potentially, yes. I think he's still got the ability to come back to where he was. But
And what's the best case scenario with this Brooklyn pick?
a number one pick. I mean, I'm guessing top 5.
Okay, and that's fine, but it turns into a Kyrie Irving like player, right?
Well, potentially, and actually, I think you're kind of making a bit of my point. Boston gave up too much here. If you're,
but
Cleveland had no leverage. Boston had all the leverage. Doesn't that Brooklyn pick and Jay Crowder get it done?
Well, here's where I'll circle back to, right? If you look at it through the lens that Cleveland gives Isaiah Thomas a max contract at the end of this season, I think Cleveland screwed themselves.
And I don't think I think Cleveland has done what they needed to do, and they got back someone who can actually replace Kyrie without sacrificing their future. In fact, making their future assets a little bit better, but also not running LeBron out of town because they're going to be terrible without Kyrie. They've kind of put their foot, and they can move on from Isaiah Thomas next year. There's nothing linking Isaiah Thomas to Cleveland.
And I'm with that, but I mean, I think that the plan is, especially if LeBron is going to stay, is they're going to bring Isaiah back, and I think that could be a really bad contract near the end. Jay Crowder's on a really good contract, but I don't think he gets any better. I think we only see worse versions of Jay Crowder than we've seen, and that pick, I think it's best. The best that you can hope for is that it's Kyrie, and it could be Anthony Bennett. I mean, it is the Cavs picking it, after all. They have not the greatest draft record on the.
Well, don't worry. They'll just get another number one pick. They don't really have to think about it.
And so my point being, I actually think Boston did all right here. Now, what Boston really sacrificed this year was some of their depth, and that was one of the things I was most excited about in their chance to beat the Cavs was they had a really deep team. And now I think they got a significantly better player and a significantly better defensive player. I mean, we can all get excited about Isaiah Thomas for fantasy because he produces a lot of great offensive stats, but he's a horrendous defender.
I wouldn't say Kyrie is significantly better than Isaiah Thomas, but he is by default a better defender than Isaiah, who is pretty abysmal.
And I actually think in that facet, they made Cleveland worse.
I don't know. I mean, Cleveland really didn't care about defense too much last year.
And so, I mean, I'm not saying I still think Cleveland's the favorite to win the East this year because they have LeBron, but I didn't hate the trade for either team really, and I think Cleveland might actually win out in the long run.
Yeah, when you look at what actually happened, I'm actually surprised that it's such a fair deal, I guess. But that's kind of why I'm upset about it, is that Cleveland had no leverage. Boston had all the leverage, yet Boston gives up all those assets for Kyrie, and it kind of lowers their depth. It gets rid of one of the 2032 picks that Danny Ainge has. And, he shot his load. Like, this is Danny Ainge's big move, is getting Kyrie and setting him up on his own team. Now, granted, like, I think Isaiah Thomas is going to be just fine fantasy-wise in Cleveland. So let's go ahead and look at Cleveland. Do you think Isaiah Thomas, does this significantly change his fantasy value? Because I really don't think it does.
No, most people say, oh, he's playing next to LeBron, he's going to get more shot attempts. Kyrie actually had 0.3 more field goal attempts than Isaiah last year. Now, Isaiah did have significantly more free throw attempts, about double. But, I mean, I don't think it really changes too much.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about here is the assists. So LeBron notoriously runs the offense wherever he goes. And Isaiah is good at working off the ball. But Isaiah really came into his own in Boston being the primary ball handler. He is not going to be the primary ball handler in Cleveland. He will still, run his fair share of plays similar to what Kyrie did. But I think the assists kind of dip for Isaiah. He's still going to see probably some more open shots because, LeBron is better than any person Isaiah has ever played with, really the best player anyone's probably ever played with in this era anyway. And he's still going to shoot a ton. He's like you said, Kyrie was the primary shooter, primary scorer on that team. Isaiah could fit right into that role. So I'm actually a little down on Isaiah from last year because, like you said, it was a career year. He's coming off that hip injury, which has been kind of a serious injury for some other players in the past. And with a little dip in assists for him, along with the kind of adjusting to a new team, I don't see him, getting to being a top 15 player.
I think he's a guy I'm not going to own probably at all this year because I think everyone's going to look at him there, and I'm definitely not. I think the scoring probably goes down a little bit, just in the sense that I just think he had a career year. He shot as good as he's going to shoot. I don't think he's that good of a shooter. I mean, he's going to have a little bit more open looks. I'll give you that. But 29 points a game. I mean, even Kyrie Irving only got 25 last year.
Yeah, so I've actually, we're working on our rankings, everyone. So I know you're probably worried about when those rankings are coming out. It's still way too early to get those rankings out. But in my rankings, I'm actually considering taking Kyle Lowry over Isaiah Thomas.
Oh. Now that's interesting.
I do think Isaiah, I'm worried about his hip a little bit, but I'm also worried about the fit in Cleveland with the fact that, he got a decent amount of his value from getting 6 assists a game. You drop that down to 4, and then you start thinking about him scoring less. And I don't know. Well, I mean, it seems like him and Kyle Lowry are now kind of the same.
I'll couch it this way. Unless you think Derrick Rose is going to get some of those playmaking opportunities, I don't think they have a ton of playmakers. I mean, other than LeBron.
I mean, LeBron is the playmaker. Absolutely.
Okay, but I mean, how many assists did Kyrie Irving have last year?
I don't know. I have to go check
5.8 a game. Almost the exact same Isaiah Thomas did.
Yeah, okay. Very similar to Isaiah.
So, and actually, Kyrie Irving played 2 more minutes. I mean, so you can look at it that way. And actually, it's like a minute and a half, but per game. So maybe that's the difference there. But I just don't really see it changing too much. And this team is actually really kind of deep now, and it's a little bit hard to figure out on the fringes of who's going to get a ton of minutes. So, maybe Isaiah dips his minutes a little bit to closer to 30. And that's always a possibility.
So yeah, Isaiah joining this team easily being the most interesting thing that happened to this team. Their standard league players, obviously LeBron and Kevin Love. Is there any? I mean, we kind of know who they are, and that's why this team was actually one of the ones we pegged to be one of the first teams we reviewed or previewed, I guess. Because we were very aware that this team was, at the time, was just going to come back, run it back again, and all those players are really going to be the same type of player they always were.
Okay. I got one question for you about this.
Throw it at me.
This whole standard league bit, and this might catch you off guard a little bit, and you might not be super prepared for it, so be ready. I'm kind of interested to see how you think the shooting guard, small forward thing shakes out. They've got Jay Crowder now, who played 30 minutes a game last year in Boston. They got J.R. Smith, who played like 25 minutes a game. They had Iman Shumpert, who played 25 minutes a game. They got Kyle Korver. They got Richard Jefferson, who can play there. They got Jeff Green. They got this Cedi Osman from overseas. Obviously, they all can't play 25 minutes. So what are you kind of pegging in this wing range here?
So yeah, I mean
and Derrick Rose is going to play some too, right?
Derrick Rose is gonna just murder people on that second team. It's gonna be great. I can't wait to be so conflicted on whether I should root for him or not. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of minutes basically that
Jay
Crowder has to,
and not that many minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of minutes that are already be taken up by people who were playing them last year and not for Jay Crowder. And that's where I think he can fit in. Jay Crowder can play the 2, 3, or 4 if he really needs to. Now he's a very big 2, I guess. But I think a lot of the Iman Shumpert minutes and probably some of the Richard Jefferson minutes go to Jay Crowder. I see at least a period of time where they tried to start Jay Crowder, and I don't know if that will be what period of the season they'll actually attempt to do that, whether it's right away or if it's later in the year to look at those crunch time. But I think Jay Crowder is part of your crunch time lineup, 100%. so he's going to play down the stretch in most games.
Over Tristan Thompson. Yes.
I mean, couldn't he play with Tristan Thompson? I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know where this is going to go. I could see them putting Love at 5 and getting Tristan off the court, but Tristan being their primary rebounder, like they might need Tristan Thompson on the court.
You nailed the topic on the head, though. Jay Crowder played almost no minutes at shooting guard last year.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he did at all.
And so you either got to make him a shooting guard, or you got to play him at the 3, LeBron at the 4, Kevin Love at the 5. Then you need a shooting guard. So that's J.R. Smith or Kyle Korver or Amon Shumpert or someone like that.
And is that a 5 years ago would be considered a lineup of death? Now is a poor man's lineup of death with Love at the 5, LeBron at the 4, Crowder at the 3?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. So I broke it down a little bit just today, and I was thinking about it. So here's where I came out with it. I'm not saying this is what's going to be right, but this is kind of what I think is going to happen. And I'll challenge you to kind of take me to task on any of these minutes here. I've got LeBron at 34. I've got Isaiah Thomas at 32, and I've got Kevin Love at 30. The next highest minutes, I got Jay Crowder at 27, Tristan Thompson 26, Derrick Rose 26.
I think those are all. I think your starting lineup is a little low.
Well, but see, here's the thing. Okay, so then you got to eliminate the minutes from either J.R. Smith at 20, which he played 25 last year, Amon Shumpert at 16, which he played 25 last year. You got Kyle Korver at 15, and then I got Channing Frye at 8 and Richard Jefferson at 6. So that gives you 10 guys that are playing. 11, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's too many.
And so, okay, maybe you take the 6 minutes away from Richard Jefferson or the 8 minutes away from Channing Frye, but I mean, all these guys are going to have less value than they had last year just because they're not going to play as many minutes.
Yeah, I think that's basically what you're getting at is either the Cavs finally realized they should rely on their depth, which, they didn't have depth last year, which is why everybody was tired by the end of the year. But maybe that does mean LeBron, well, really across the board, LeBron, Isaiah, Kevin Love, all play, 3 to 5 less minutes per game. And I'd also say Jay Crowder is definitely going to take a step back in fantasy value simply because he's not going to be playing the 32 minutes a game he played last year.
Yeah, and so I guess that was my ultimate point is I'm not super high on any of these Cavs, really.
I still think LeBron is such a psychopath that they're going to try to play him less minutes, and if they're losing the game or the game is close, LeBron is going to go right back in. He's going to stand up and walk to the scorer's table. He coaches the team. He runs the team. He's the GM. He's everything.
He produces end of the first round value next year. I think pretty much.
Yeah, he stays right where he is.
Like 6, 7, 8. I mean, yes, I'm with you in that. I mean, and then I'm not super talking about that.
I'm not taking LeBron in the top 8, and I think we'll talk about our rankings for sure. But right now, there's kind of a consensus that there's a top 8, and that top 8 is pretty phenomenal.
He finished 10th last year. If you look at total values, 8-cat total values. I'm not super picking LeBron at all this year, probably, but that's a different story for a different time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think he's right where people are thinking he's going to be. I think Kevin Love and has a potential to be a little bit worse, but probably not enough to talk about.
And here's the thing about Kevin Love, and I'll say this, which is odd. I always think Kevin Love gets hated on maybe a little bit too much.
I agree. I mean, per game, when you look at head-to-head punting turnover strategy, so 8-cat, per game, Kevin Love was the 31st ranked player. He only played 60 games last year, so that's an issue. But the guy's still 19-11 and hits 2.5 threes. And that's pretty crazy for someone who you could put technically in your center spot.
And I think a lot of times you see him lasting until the 50s, 60s. And I usually get on board at that point. So
you mentioned a lot of the role players on this team. Are any of them significantly interesting in a deeper league? And so let's talk about 14, 16 team leagues.
Well, and maybe this was maybe part of the point I was trying to make is in deeper leagues, you're going to get to pick your horse, right? I think that all their values are going to get depressed a little bit, and you're going to get to kind of go, okay, I think J.R. Smith's going to get 25 minutes and nail home his threes and do a little bit of scoring, and that's what I need. So that's the guy I'm going to go with. I don't know.
Or you think Derrick Rose is going to get 24 minutes a game.
Well, and that's
you're like, oh, Derrick Rose with 24 minutes a game in a deeper league, that guy could score what, 15 points a game, 14 points a game in 20 some minutes, and that's a lot of points past the 12th round.
So he would be in a vacuum. He would be the guy I want. Now he's the guy I'm going to caution people on. Okay, he played 32 and a half minutes a game last year. He got you 18 points. He got you 3 rebounds. He got you almost 4 rebounds. He got you 4.5 assists. Now, there's not a lot of steals and there's not a lot of blocks. The percentages were good. There's no 3-pointers. And it's usually two camps when I do a draft. Either Derrick Rose gets picked really high because someone remembers the awesome MVP season, or everybody poops on Derrick Rose and
he doesn't even get drafted. Yeah.
And he's bargain basement. So in the bargain basement, I'm definitely looking at him.
And it's weird because being from Chicago, it's still the same. It's actually the same exact type of drafts. Either there's one person who's like, man, I love Derrick Rose forever. And it's not me, even though I do love Derrick Rose forever. I'll never draft him. I don't love him that much. But most of the drafts, people stick away from him like he's got the plague.
And I did a mock last year, and someone took him in the top 30, and I was like,
oh boy.
I was like, wait, what? And it was one of the ones right about this time now, when the stuff first opened, and I think he had already gone to New York at that point. Yeah,
I think so.
And I had to look it up. Did Phil Jackson say he was going to play 40 minutes a game? Was he finally found a 3-point shot? I was scouting the internet for an article. Maybe I'm missing something.
Regenerate his knees from 6 years ago.
And so it was just weird because I was like, maybe I missed something here.
Yeah, that's a little bit way too aggressive. Yeah, I like him probably best in a as kind of someone you can get at a pretty low round, but would give you pretty good value in a deeper league. I don't like him in standard leagues. I just don't think the minutes are going to be there. That's my problem. Yeah, I think you're kind of right with that. You're going to see less minutes from Kyle Korver, which is going to hurt his value. Tristan Thompson, probably all these guys until they figure out what kind of rotation they actually want to run there, and by that time it'll probably be halfway through the season.
Yeah, so I'm not super attacking this team for sure.
So really, there's no really on this team that's interesting when it comes to keeper dynasty leagues, as any team with LeBron is forced to get rid of any sort of youth or draft picks, and so they haven't had any.
Well,
and when LeBron leaves next year, this team will be gutted.
There might be one dude. Do you know anything about this Cedi Osman man coming over from Turkey?
I know nothing.
I will say that he is a wing, which is usually somewhat valuable in the NBA, and I am almost positive, I am looking up the stats right this second, that he was a good 3-point shooter. I am not wrong about that. He is a decent 3-point shooter and a decent percentage shooter, and he only scored 10 points a game last year in 22 minutes for his Turkish team. So I'm not super excited, but he has been a steals guy in that Turkish league. So he could be interesting in a super deep league if LeBron leaves and they decide to play him minutes.
Well, I mean, yeah, let's step back real quick. Let's say, which is probably going to happen, LeBron leaves. They don't re-sign Isaiah Thomas. All of a sudden, you got, Ante Zizic, who was also in the trade. There are some people who are kind of high on him, but he also had an abysmal summer league, but summer league really doesn't mean a damn thing. Him and in this Seti Ojale guy, all of a sudden, or Seti Osman, not Seti Ojale, that's some other guy. Both of those guys could suddenly find themselves as the players that you never thought would ever start, but are currently starting and worth looking at next year.
Yeah, and so I mean, I'm not saying attack these guys. I'm saying if it's your last pick in a deep dynasty league and you're looking for somebody, Osman might be the type of guy you go for. Zizic, this Zizic guy is supposed to be a real good rebounder. I did not like what I saw at all in summer league. He looked oafy and slow and not super impressive to me, but there's worse flyers. He's 20 years old.
True. What about Walter Tavares?
Oh man, I would much rather have Zizic. That guy.
I agree.
He looks like he's 8 foot tall out there, but he just doesn't impress me.
So let's go to the other side of this trade into Boston. And so Boston gets back Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving slides pretty easily, I think, into Isaiah Thomas's role as being the primary ball handler, primary shooter, taking the most shots on the team. In fact, so much so that I'm not really sure how Kyrie gets worse. If anything, Kyrie has to become more of a distributor and might somehow even take more shots in Boston.
Oh yeah, I mean on the margins, if we're talking about Kyrie versus Isaiah Thomas, I think Kyrie's went up and Isaiah Thomas's went down a little bit. Now they're both still top guys, and Kyrie Irving's probably a second-round pick, and it's not one I love because that injury. He always kind of seems to get an injury and just a little bit of banged up. But I mean, I'm with you. I think his numbers get a little bit better, if anything.
Yeah, I think it definitely pushes their values almost pretty close together. Even perhaps making Irving a little bit more attractive than Isaiah Thomas.
For next year, I think I'd definitely rather have Irving. I think Isaiah peaked, and I think he's going to fall back. And
Irving's got nowhere to go but up. He's very young, and now they've basically said, "Hey, guess what? This is your team."
Still 25 years old, even though it seems like he's been around for a long time.
Forever. The thing I wonder is that Isaiah was a very good distributor, and we have not seen Kyrie, though. Like I said, he had to play in the shadow of LeBron, distributing the ball all the time and being the primary ball handler. We haven't seen Kyrie Irving's distribution skills.
Oh, I think Kyrie Irving's a much better passer than Isaiah Thomas.
Blossom, I guess. And also he's got to fit into Boston's offensive schemes where they kind of move the ball around all crazily and shoot threes. I just think this system, the people around him, Isaiah Thomas thrived there. Why wouldn't Kyrie Irving thrive there?
Oh, I'm with you, and I think Kyrie Irving's a better talent than Isaiah Thomas. I do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like you said, Isaiah Thomas had a career year, and who also, come on, the Pizza Man, he should be respected for that.
I'm a big fan of Isaiah Thomas. I'm always a big fan of guys who are a little bit undersized.
So looking for a little bit of a bump with Kyrie. The rest of this team, though, they lost Avery Bradley. And obviously Jay Crowder was moved as well. And that's opened up quite a bit of minutes for some of their secondary players. There's going to be a lot bigger roles for guys like Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and of course, they brought in Gordon Hayward.
Let's stop the horn there. I don't know that Marcus Smart plays any more than the 30 minutes he played last year.
I don't know. I mean, there's still a good role for him.
So here's the question in that sense. Okay, I think Hayward's going to get like about 34 minutes a game. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't play what he basically played in Utah, especially now that they're lacking the depth kind of that they had a minute ago. So you've got a lot of minutes to go around for guys like Smart, guys like Jaylen Brown. I would assume Jason Tatum's going to get in the rotation. You got Marcus Morris. And so I think all these guys could be looking at pretty big roles just because there's not a lot of depth. I mean, are they really going to play Gershon Yabusele, Abdel Nader, Semi Ojali, Shane Larkin, Andrew White, Daniel Thesis? Are they really going to play those guys any minutes? I tend to think not.
I'm guessing not. The only question I maybe have is, what are they doing with the center position? Al Horford doesn't like to play center. Marcus Morris is not a center. And Aaron Baines isn't good enough to play extended minutes.
I think that they basically backed themselves into a corner at this point. So I ran the rotation again today after the trade, and I have Al Horford playing 32 minutes in total and 30 of those minutes at center.
Wow. And you think basically they say, well, Al, sorry, this is your life now. I know you don't like playing center, but here we are.
Against a lot of teams, does it make any difference? I mean, he's going to be
still makes a difference for some squads.
And I agree. And there might be in those games you might see. I mean, I have Aaron Baines at 15 minutes right now, and I have Yabusele at 3 just because I could easily see Aaron Baines getting those 18 minutes and that being the whole lot. And I think there's some nights where you could see Baines get 24 or 25 just because the other team's playing a big bruiser, Rudy Gobert type, and Horford doesn't want to deal with that matchup, so he slides down more to the power forward, and Baines sees an uptick in one game scenario.
That makes sense, and I think Brad Stevens is obviously smart enough and one of the better, if not one of the top coaches in the NBA, and he will make those adjustments very easily and convince those players to make those adjustments.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I really think this team wants to play the Marcus Morris, the Jaylen Brown, the Jason Tatum, play those wing types, and that leaves Horford no choice but to go down to the 5.
Yeah, and does that affect his value at all when it comes to fantasy?
I tend to think not really. I mean, I think he is what he is at this point.
Yeah, Al Horford's become an unsexy name, which is weird because, 3-4 seasons ago, he was a guy that you really would actually target in drafts, and now he's kind of fallen out of that. Let me go check. He at one point was a top 15 player, and he's dropped into almost being in the 40s. In fact, in totals last year, he was 43rd in ACAT leagues, and I like Al Horford as someone who's going to fall a little too far in drafts.
Oh, I'm with you. I mean, those 5 assists a game that he got last year, if he can keep that up, I mean, that's a huge boost from a big man spot. So, I mean, I'm always kind of a fan of picking Al Horford, especially in roto leagues.
Yeah, that's where his value really lies because he doesn't turn the ball over. He gets you almost a steal and a block. And those 5 assists are really hard to come by from a center spot. And that has value in head-to-head too. 5 assists from your center spot really puts you over.
No doubt.
When you're playing weekly.
I think though that I guess when I said I like to pick him in a roto just because the percentages are good. There's limited turnovers. There's some stats in not usual places. The rebounds are a tad bit light, maybe. I mean, 6.8. You'd like to see maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that's why people shy away from him. They look at his day-to-day stats and they go, "Wow, 14 and almost 7. Who cares?" And they don't notice the incredibly solid free throw percentage, the very good field goal percentage, the block, the steal, and a 3-pointer a game.
Well, and the 3 used to be a little bit more valuable, right? And that's where his value is seen the dip is. She doesn't shoot any more 3s. He shoots about the same number of 3s, probably maybe a touch more than when he was that top 15 pick, but everybody else shoots so many more.
Oh yeah. And now you got guys like Boogie Cousins hitting 3 a game.
Yeah.
God bless Boogie Cousins, by the way.
And that just changed the value around a little bit, which nothing wrong with that.
So the rest of this team losing since they lost Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, and Kelly Olynyk. And there's a lot of turnover on this team, which I knew, but now having it sitting here in front of me, it's a lot more than I remembered.
Well, and I mean the depth is the big thing that I think they lost in this trade. You know what I mean? Like they just don't have those guys coming off the bench that you go, wow, I'm excited to see this guy. I'm excited that they have this guy in reserve in case someone gets hurt. Now they pretty much got to play their 10 and hope for the best.
Maybe we'll see a little bit more of the future MVP of the league, Terry Rozier.
I got him pegged for 14 minutes a game, and I didn't want to have that many.
I think that's a little too many. So who's the starting 2 guard on this team?
Starting 2 guard, wow, that's a good question. So they got a kind of an option to start either Marcus Smart or Jaylen Brown. I don't really super think it matters who they start. I mean,
I don't either, but I'm leaning towards Jaylen Brown, and this is why. Because Marcus Smart is
then capable. I think Hayward's the 2 guard and Jaylen Brown's the 3, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, and maybe it doesn't even matter when it comes to how Boston runs their offense. But the reason I lean towards Jaylen Brown over Marcus Smart being a starter is simply because you need someone to run the second team, and Marcus Smart can run the second team.
And that's it. If you're looking at Smart as a point guard, and then there's even less minutes for Terry Rozier, and there's probably more minutes for those wing guys, which was probably not a bad thing for them.
No, not at all. I think someone like Jason Tatum is ready to at least attempt to play NBA basketball, to get 12 minutes a game, which is really quite frightening when you think about it. That he's already ready for 12 minutes a game, and Jaylen Brown's already ready to start in his second year. And that just goes to show you that how much depth they did have on this team that they no longer have. It might be a little early for these guys to step into those roles. Do you see Jaylen Brown as a standard league value next year?
Probably not. I mean, he got 17 minutes a game last year, so I could see him getting 30 or thereabout, but like, what was super sexy about what he did in 17 minutes a game?
Yeah, his game, while it looks, when you watch it, in real NBA, he doesn't have one of those games that translates to fantasy, at least not yet. Let's say, hypothetically, he does play 30 minutes a night. Well, you're not really getting a huge score. You're not really getting someone who is deadly from downtown. You're not getting a ton of rebounds or steals or blocks out of position, and your percentages are nothing to really talk about. He's better at just being an all-around okay type of guy instead of someone who could be a fantasy stud if he suddenly got 30 minutes a game.
I am with you 100%.
And I think he will, and I think he might tempt people to reach for him just because by the time preseason rolls around, it looks like they might be starting him, and you're like, oh, great, starting minutes. That means I should draft him. He's got a lot of potential. I've heard his name, blah, blah, blah. And I think people are going to be reaching for Jaylen Brown, and I don't think you should.
I am with you on that, especially in a standard league. He's not really a guy I want. Even if they say he's playing 30, 32 minutes a game, I mean, maybe with my last pick, I'm taking a shot on somebody, but I don't really want him at all.
Let's say hypothetically Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum both play 28 minutes a game. Who would you rather have?
For fantasy, if they're going to play the same minutes,
yeah,
I'd probably rather have Jason Tatum.
I agree. He's going to score, and I think he's going to do a little bit more than Jaylen Brown does overall. I'm not sure either one of those guys approach standard league or become standard league relevant this season, but it's worth keeping an eye on Jaylen Brown simply because the minutes will be there. Let's go to Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward coming from a offense that was basically designed around him as the primary, really everything. He loses a little bit of the ball handling and playmaking that he had in Utah. There's just less a need for that now that he's playing with, Kyrie, who fits into Isaiah Thomas's spot. And also I think that affects the amount of shots he's going to be putting up as well. What do you see to his value here?
I think you're falling into a trap here, my friend.
I disagree. I think.
How many shots did Hayward shoot last year?
Gordon Hayward, he took about 16 shots per game.
Yeah. So, I mean, why can he not take that again?
I'll tell you one reason, because that would require for him to get the ball passed to him. And I know one point guard who
Well,
Probably. Now I'm just gonna be a Kyrie hater and say he's not gonna pass him the ball.
well,
He's
see,
gonna pass him
here's,
the ball, but let's just throw it out there. Avery Bradley took 14. Jay Crowder took 10. So there are shots to go around and
and
to give.
who would you rather have
to
handling the ball, Gordon Hayward or Marcus Smart?
Gordon Hayward.
Exactly my point. So, I mean, Kyrie's going to play 34 a night. You got those other minutes to let someone handle the ball, and it's probably going to be Gordon Hayward.
And that would suggest that they're staggering those guys, and I don't think they're going to.
Oh, I definitely think that they're going to, in some cases, especially once they figure out that Gordon Hayward is the second best ball handler they have.
Brad Stevens probably has already figured that out without even bothering to have a practice.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that just makes the most sense to win basketball games. And so I actually don't really think I've heard a lot of Hayward's value can drop a ton. I don't really see that happening.
I don't see his value dropping a ton, but I do see it dropping, and simply because the offense is not built around him. The offense doesn't run through him like it did in Utah, and that is significantly it's going to adjust it. He's going to have to adjust his game to that, which I think he can, right? But that does mean. Maybe one less assist.
Well, see, here's kind of how I'm looking.
A couple of less points.
Here's kind of how I'm looking at it. I guess is I'm with you there, but I think the steals could go back up to where they were, in like that 1.3, 1.4 range, and so I mean a little less assists maybe. I mean, 3.5 was kind of a bottom value last year that he had. I think he can get 3.5 assists. And so, I mean, I don't really see. If anything, I'm thinking he loses a little bit of points and maybe some field goal percentage, and that's about it.
I mean, Gordon Hayward had a career year last year. Would you say that?
As far as shooting the ball, I think he did. Yeah.
Yeah, and they put a lot more pressure on him to basically facilitate everything that was going on there.
But I think he's a 44% shooter this year, probably in the field. So obviously that's going to drop the points some, but I think he can do the playmaking and maybe even be a little bit better on defense. So we'll see.
I think that's a fair statement. He might play around the same amount of minutes, or maybe a few less, depending on how the rotations go. I think there's just enough small things, like he's not facilitating the offense. His shooting percentage might go down. Has to play behind Kyrie. He's not the primary scorer.
Okay, top 50.
I think there's just enough.
Let's cut to the chase. Let's do it.
That
top 50 guy.
Top 50? Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Top 40?
Let me make sure I'm not gonna regret saying that he's not a top 40 guy. Top 40 guy.
Okay. Top 30?
No.
So he's between 30 and 40.
Yeah.
That's exactly where he finished last year. Total value finished 33rd. And that's kind of where I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be, I mean, he might drop to 40, but I don't see him really falling to 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, like some people like, oh.
No, that's absurd.
Right. This move hurts his value. It's like, not really. I mean, those guys are so packed in there anyways that like, that's just standard variance, right? Like maybe if he has a real bad year shooting the ball, he drops to 50.
Yeah, I think you misunderstood me in lumping me in with the people who think he's going to be bottom half of the top 100. That's ridiculous. He's still an incredibly talented player who's coming into his prime. He takes a step back, and there's enough people who are going to take a step forward that I think he drops just an overall value when it comes to looking at his ranking, or at least his value by the end of the year.
And I'll apologize if that's the way it came off. I wasn't trying to lump you in with those people. I'm just saying I don't think his value is going to drop as much as everybody else. I wasn't trying to say anything bad about you or anything. It's just, you know what I mean? Like I hear people saying, oh, it's going to tank. It's like, I don't really think that's going to happen.
Oh, no. That seems like a ridiculous statement, just as if there's anyone out there saying he's suddenly going to be absolutely amazing on Boston.
I don't think he's going to be 19th.
That's who he is, right?
He was like 19th that one year, right? That he had a lot more assists and stuff, and steals were up. Yeah, he's going to be like 30 to 40 to 50. That's just where he is.
Who else on this team is standard league relevant to you?
Standard league relevant. Well, we pretty much hit all the names. I mean, you got Horford. Marcus Smart is an interesting guy just because he gets a ton of steals. And if you need that at the end of your draft, but he can't shoot. And, I mean, Marcus Smart's definitely standard league relevant, but it's back end of the standard league.
Yeah, Marcus Morris isn't suddenly going to be a world beater or significantly change his game in Boston. So you can expect Marcus Morris to, if anything, at the best look like he did last year.
Morris is one of my favorite guys to snag in a deep league.
Yeah, nobody likes it.
He had 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Now the steals and the blocks aren't great, but he gives you a 3.5. He always finds a way to get big minutes. I think he's going to get 32 minutes again on Boston. They don't have a ton of power forwards. They're going to need him to play power forward.
They might need him to play center every once in a while.
And here's the thing that happens that guys don't understand about deep league. So I make this point because I see it happen all the time. Okay. In a standard league with your last couple picks, which are the same number picks, right? Like in that 100 to 130 range in your standard league, you want to shoot for upside guys because if they don't work out, you can just drop them and find somebody else. In a deeper league, when that 100 guy has to be a starter on your team, you need to pick someone who's going to return good value. You can't afford for that person to crap the bed and give you 0 value. And so in that 110, 115, 120 range, I love to grab a guy like Marcus Morris because you know he's going to play and you know he's going to give you something.
And you see that happen all the time. It's a lot of deep leagues I think I've ever been in is you see people very quickly overlook Andre Iguodala or even someone like JJ Redick and say, no, I'm going to go for someone a rookie who could be good. Or, I think this is finally the year Michael Kidd-Gilchrist learns how to shoot. And they completely ignore the fact that Enes Kanter is going to give you 14 and 7 every single night.
Yeah, and he only plays 20 minutes. He sucks. I actually did that last year in a deep league draft. I had a guy yelling at me, Enes Kanter sucks. He plays like 20 minutes a game. I'm like, yeah, he's also really good in those 20 minutes, bro.
Yeah, he's also getting you 14 and 7. And not much else, right? But 14 and 7.
But how
over someone like let's throw someone under the bus here. Would you rather have his 14 and 7 or Tristan Thompson's 8 and 9?
Yeah, you'd rather have the 14. And
I'd rather have 14 and 7.
This is one thing people don't understand about deep leagues too. That 14 points is actually quite a bit. Those make a huge difference because, like you're saying right there, that's 5 more points a game than Tristan Thompson's getting. That's a lot of points to make up.
Yeah, all of a sudden the next round comes around and that guy who's making fun of you is drafting Zaza Pachulia because he has nothing else left.
Yeah, so Marcus Morris is a guy I a lot of times will kind of target in a deep league in that range. Just he provides some good value.
Looking at this more deep league stuff, so we kind of hit on that deep league. Is there anyone on this team that makes you sexy? I don't know why I said that. Other than Marcus Morris on this team. Well, Jason Tatum, perhaps?
He's in my take a shot range, so I don't think I'll get him because I think someone will reach for him a little bit sooner. I think the minutes probably go up as the season goes on, but at the beginning of the year, he's probably going to start out at like 15 minutes a game, and that's just not enough, even in like a 14-team league, a 16-team league. Now, maybe he gets up to 20, 25, but I don't love to pick rookies in redraft leagues just because it's so much of an uncertainty. I mean, everybody got hyped about Stanley Johnson 2 years ago.
And some people still are hyped about Stanley Johnson.
Well, yeah, but Stanley Johnson still has yet to play more than 17 minutes. So if you drafted him in the last 2 years in a redraft league, you've gotten absolutely no value whatsoever.
0. You're absolutely right. And I think Tatum is a little bit more of a talent, especially when it comes to scoring, which is always needed on the NBA court. So he probably has a better chance of seeing more minutes than someone like Stanley Johnson. When it comes to dynasty leagues, though, I think Jason Tatum is one of your primary targets.
I literally think he's definitely a top 5 target, and I could easily see him, especially after this trade. I think it bumped him up a little bit. It opened up a path for a few more minutes this season, and potentially some more minutes going forward. And so I mean, I could easily see taking him in the top 2 or 3 in a dynasty league, like just rookie draft, obviously.
Perfect. So I think we got through that very, very interesting and kind of shocking blockbuster trade that happened just less than 24 hours ago. Who should we go to next? Let's go to a lovely city with a terrible, terrible owner.
Oh, it's got to be Chicago.
Management. It's the New York Knicks. No, you thought it was going to be Chicago, but it's going to be the Knicks. It's the Knicks. The Knicks, the only team really, truly keeping Chicago at bay from being the worst team in the league, from top to bottom. It's getting close. I think that race is getting a little too close for my comfort. But if you go look at the past, if you go look at the Chicago Bulls only screw one team over in trades, and it's the New York Knicks.
Worst 2 contracts, one in each of the last 2 off seasons. Do the Knicks own them?
Well, you can pretty much say that Joakim Noah was a horrendous contract. Tim Hardaway at least can play, while I think Luol Deng was run ragged by Tom Thibodeau to death. So that contract might actually be worse than Tim Hardaway's contract. But yeah, I think you're right. It's the 2 most laughable contracts for sure of the last 2 off seasons.
And I heard a thing, and you never really know if this is true or not, right? That like they were offering so much, significantly more than any other team is willing to offer Tim Hardaway, that like other GMs were laughing at them.
Oh yeah, and those GMs still are laughing at them.
And it's just like, man, how do you mess this stuff up this bad? Like, it's Tim Hardaway. It's not like it's LeBron James. I mean, come on, don't stuff it.
Yeah, that was a bit baffling, and I think it's going to be baffling for everyone who watches Tim Hardaway play next year. The Garden is going to eat that guy up. And everyone knows how much money he's making. Everyone knows that they're idiots, and they put a bunch of money behind him, and every shot he misses is going to just deteriorate his confidence. That said, Tim Hardaway Jr., that is, he will be starting for your New York Knicks.
Got 28 a game last year. How many this year?
I think and I think this is where this conversation goes. This is the most interesting thing going on in New York. What's going on with their guard situation? You got Tim Hardaway Jr., who they just spent a ton of money on, so they're going to play that guy. And then they have no one? I mean, who's the second best guard on this team?
The second best guard tomorrow is Courtney Lee.
Ooh.
The second
That's
best.
Brutal.
The best eventual guard is probably Ntilikina. I like his talent. I don't think he's at all really ready to play in the NBA. But
he's like barely 19, right?
Yeah, but I think they're going to be forced to play him like 25 minutes, man. They just don't have anything else.
Man, that's gonna ruin.
Unless they're gonna play Ronnie Baker or Chasen Randall or Damian Dotson, which, I mean, throw up in a bucket right there, my friend.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. The most interesting thing on this team is I don't know who gets how many minutes is there to go around there? Like 60, 70 minutes, 80 minutes to go around?
Well, if you figure Hardaway and Courtney Lee play 60 of the minutes, I mean, there's 96 minutes total, so
it's brutal. So is Ramon Sessions, Ron Baker, any of those guys? I mean, is Tim Hardaway even fantasy relevant on this team?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tim Hardaway is. In 27.3 minutes a game last year, he got you 14 points, almost 2 threes, 2.8 rebounds, 2.3 assists. There's not much steals and blocks, but the percentages were pretty good. I mean,
he's not sexy.
And I think people, because he got the big contract and he's playing for New York, might reach for him. But I mean, he's got a shot to be a top 100 player, I think.
He's got a shot to just I think scrape into the top 100.
Yeah, I'm not saying like top 50. I'm saying like 90 to 100, but
he's gonna have to play out of his mind. But like you said, who else are they gonna play? So he might not just play like 32 minutes a game. He might be playing 38 minutes a game because there's nothing else they can possibly do other than play Tim Hardaway.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And so he's not the worst pick in a standard league, but I'm not picking him at 80 or 90. I'm picking him at 110 or 120, hopefully. Or I mean, I'm not really thinking about him until pick 100. Let's put it that way.
And that's exactly how you should approach guys like that. Guys with very little upside. If you don't get them around late, then you shouldn't get them at all.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
So let's go to the standard league guys on this team. The main two being the man, the myth, the legend, Kristaps Porzingis, and the former man, the former myth, the former legend, Carmelo Anthony, who is constantly in trade talks to move to another team. So you have that kind of hanging over your head as your drafts approach. Is there any significant change in the value of either one of those two players?
Significant change? No, probably not. I think Kristaps probably is the exact same player. I can't really see. I mean, he got 33 minutes a game last year. Maybe they bump it a little bit more, but probably not. Is Carmelo the Dwayne Wade yet? Does he take the ultimate nosedive to where guys like us actually pick him? Has he reached that point yet?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people are going to be out on Carmelo Anthony simply because of just the fact that they know that he doesn't want to be in New York, and he doesn't really. I mean, if you're in a league with a little bit more NBA savvy people, I think you're gonna look at Carmelo and go, ugh, this guy, and that's gonna allow you to pick up Carmelo in the 5th, 6th round, and he's worth that pick.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really see any, short of him getting injured, which he's getting older, so the risk is probably going up for that a little bit, but I don't see any reason why he would get injured right now. His 22 points are super valuable, and he still does a little bit of everything. The blocks, you could ask for a little bit more, but beggars can't be choosers. In the 6th round, I'm definitely interested. And I think, and I'm not sure about this yet, the last few years, Dwayne Wade has taken the big tumble, right, where he's like available at pick 80, 90, 100. And then at some point, you're just like, well, I'm not in love with Dwayne Wade, but
yeah, he's not going to play in back-to-backs, but when he plays, he still scores 20 points a game, so why the hell not?
And so I'm hopeful Carmelo takes that dip this year.
I'm not sure if this is the year yet. I think that it is certainly a possibility that he starts falling. In fact, let's Yahoo mock drafts are open, and we are going to be probably doing the occasional mock draft, I would think.
I won't speak for you, but I do more than the occasional mock draft.
Well, I was going to say we're going to do the occasional mock draft that we publish. The amount of mock drafts I will do will be embarrassing, and I will not tell anyone that public information. Carmelo Anthony is currently average. His average draft position is 43, so I'm not sure this is going to be the year.
But here's the thing, okay? Right now, you got most of the sharps are the only guys doing the mock drafts, right? The guys who know a lot about this, or
the layman is certainly not paying attention to fantasy basketball.
And so I that's a number, and I respect the number, and I don't have any reason to think they lie about the number. You know what I mean? But I think that the more sharp guys are doing the drafts right now. So it'll be interesting to see when the public, the more people who are don't care that much about it, get in there if that number is coming down.
And sadly, it's usually what it usually comes down to, especially on Yahoo and ESPN, is what did Yahoo and ESPN rank these guys at? Because they start, even I fall victim to, those guys start sifting to the top, and that you see them pick after pick after pick, just sitting at the top and guys below going, and eventually you go, well, why hasn't anyone picked Melo? This guy is actually really good, and that means I usually get the correct value for him, right? But if you're in a league where it's just kind of a regular, not super ridiculously into NBA type of players in your casual fantasy basketball league, there's guys who are going to see Melo and go, "You guys are morons. He should have been picked 7 picks ago. I got this dude," and he is going to go in the top 40.
And I'll say this too, and also those rankings matter in the sense that someone didn't show up to the draft, he gets picked higher, so that goes into the ADP number. And I mean, you've done this. I know I've done this. So it's an online draft, and your computer takes a crud for a second. And if you're not filling the queue, which I'm sometimes guilty of because I don't always super know who I want at a pick, you can kind of get stuck with Carmelo.
That's very true. I really don't miss the days where those draft lobbies were so like your connection would. It was almost like 100% chance your connection would drop.
Yeah.
And then you would be stuck. You would come back in and be like, "No, why? Why? No, start over."
Yeah, I've got the worst player.
It's or someone who's like out for the year.
My first year playing, I'll have to admit this was a kind of a good story. My first year playing, all right, I had like a list of like 5 or 10 guys that I wanted at the very end of the draft. Like they were kind of my sleepers or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
So and they were like way down there on, I'm pretty sure it was a Yahoo league. It was way down there on Yahoo's rankings. So I put them in the queue, and then my computer took a complete crap for like 10 minutes. So I had like 3 of these guys who were like ranked in the 200s
in like the middle of the draft,
in like the 5th, 6th, and 7th round.
Oh my god!
And like everybody I was playing with had known like that guy is a freaking idiot. He is the dumbest guy I know.
That is brutal. That's absolutely brutal. Yeah, actually, if you could still find some of those old teams that you had on Yahoo, and my earliest team had Jalen Rose on it, so that is my claim to fame.
I still think I was in diapers at that point.
Oh yeah, I'm an old veteran at this point. So I'm actually going to go back and circle back around with Kristaps Porzingis, because I would actually disagree that Kristaps Porzingis is going to produce the same season that he produced last year. New York's not running the triangle here anymore. If they aren't running their offense around Kristaps Porzingis, then I have no idea what to do about the future of basketball in New York. I mean, Kristaps is...
Jeff Hornacek is a bad coach. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Hornacek is a terrible coach. An absolutely terrible coach, but he's not being told to run the triangle anymore. And I don't think even the worst coaches, now Hoiberg is worse, but even the worst coaches know that you should probably get the ball to your best player.
Okay, and I'm with you on that, but are they going to play him at his best position?
Are they actually going to play him at the 5?
No, they're not. They can't. They got Willie Hernangomez, who's a 5. They got Kyle O'Quinn, who's a 5. They got Joakim Noah, who's, after he serves his 12-game suspension, is going to play.
Yeah, Noah.
So, I mean, aren't those guys going to clog most of the minutes at the 5, and Porzingis is going to end up getting like 10 or 12, and the rest of his 35 or 34 are going to be at power forward?
Probably.
So, I mean, I don't have a ton of faith in him there. Now, I actually kind of have Porzingis pegged to score more like 20 points. And
yeah, I think he's going to shoot a little bit better, I think. I hope anyway. And I think he's going to do very similar things that he did last year, but maybe make a few more shots, hit a few more threes. I think he's going to be trending up, if you will.
Okay, so where are you picking him?
Old Kristaps. Where am I thinking about Kristaps? Well, I don't want to reach for him, and I know somebody will reach for him, but I'm thinking around the middle of the third round.
Yeah, and I mean I still think people are gonna be going for him in the second.
I don't know. This is a very lucrative draft this year. You legitimately can't go wrong with any of the top 8. And and when we release our rankings, I'm moving that to a top 9. I don't think you can go wrong with the top 9.
Who's the 9th?
You're gonna have to find out. That's the suspense.
I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with any of the top 15, maybe even. I mean, they're all great players, and drafting Kristaps in the 2nd round isn't going to kill your team because he's going to be good. He's going to return value around pick 30 probably, or 40, so it's not like it's crushing your team. But it's not the way I like to draft.
Fair, and I'm just a little bit higher in Kristaps, I think, than you are this year, and I'm okay with that. Speaking of the guys who are going to play center, like our main man, Willie Gomez. What do you think his outlook this year? I mean, there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of centers on this team, so there's a lot of minutes to go around there. And last year they really couldn't decide who the hell they actually wanted to give starters minutes to, so they didn't give it to anyone. Is Willie Hernangomez, is he going to be someone who's going to play starters minutes?
No. I think that they're going to give Joakim Noah 15 to 18 minutes when he comes back. I think they're going to give Kyle O'Quinn some minutes. They're going to give Porzingis some minutes at the 5. And so, I mean, I don't really want any of these guys, especially in a standard league. They're going to drive you nuts because Hornacek's going to do the same crap he did last year where it's Hernangomez one game, it's Kyle O'Quinn one game, it's Joakim Noah one game. And, I mean, in a standard league, you can't afford to have that value where the guy gave you 10 minutes.
No, not at all. What about in a deeper league, though? Are any of these centers more intriguing than the next?
In a vacuum, I'd rather have Hernangomez. In reality, I think I won't have any of them because I think people are going to pick Hernangomez like he's a standard league relevant player because he always seems to have a little bit of buzz around him.
Yeah, for some reason, people really I think they like his name because it's a silly name. And they could actually say, and I can actually say it, so I remember it, which is nice. But yeah, he's probably got the most upside. If you look, he's only 23. He's got the most upside. So if you're in a dynasty league, he's the most intriguing guy on this team outside of Frank. And I guess Porzingis. Porzingis should probably already be taken in your dynasty league, unless you're just drafting right now. But yeah.
If we're talking super deep leagues, like
let's say 20 team, 18 team.
Like 20 team leagues, I'm the 2 guys I might take a shot on are Michael Beasley, just because he can give you some points on pretty good percentages.
That's true.
And points get scarce at some point.
So he's going to have to play.
And then I might take a shot on Joakim Noah, just if everybody's super out on him. He's always been a good rebounder. He can block a shot. I don't think he's going to play a ton. But, I mean, in a super deep league, I mean, you know how bad those picks get near the end?
Yeah, and I'm going to feel – no, you know what? I actually agree. I'm going to feel bad for saying this, though. I think I'd rather see Kylo Quinn's 16 minutes versus Joakim Noah's 23 minutes. And they're both similar kind of guys. Kylo Quinn, everyone's like, oh man, if Kylo Quinn played 36 minutes, man, he'd be the best fantasy player of all time. And he's never going to play 36 minutes. But that half a steal and a block and 5 rebounds in 16 minutes is pretty.
My worry with
nice.
him is that in the games that Joakim Noah plays, now Joakim Noah is suspended for 12 games. I said it once, I'll say it again because it's the facts. I'm worried Kyle Quinn doesn't play.
I'm worried he suddenly plays 6 minutes, which happens all the time with Kyle Quinn. Suddenly, he just doesn't play at all.
And that's what I mean. Even a 20-team league, like 6 minutes, I'm not excited to throw that in there. So I'm not on him. I'm on him in the sense that if you told me Kyle Quinn gets you 15, 16 minutes every game, no matter what, I'll buy it. But I think, like you're saying, it could be 5 minutes most games.
Fair, and Joakim Noah is definitely going to get that 15 to 23 range.
Right, they paid him too
every
much.
single time.
You know what I mean? They paid him too much. Plus, I think most people are thinking what you're thinking, right? I'm going to go for Hernangomez. I'm going to go for O'Quinn. Oh, Noah's going to be the one who gets pissed on and doesn't play. And if that's the last pick in a 20-team league, I can grab Joakim Noah. I'm laughing at you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
is Joe still got the ability to hand out those assists and get those rebounds? He's still a little. He's a tricky old fantasy vet.
And so that's where I'm looking at that. But I mean, I could be wrong.
Is there anyone else, you know? So is Courtney Lee playing starters minutes? And when if he is playing starters minutes, is he in your standard league draft?
Total value last year, he finished 88th, which surprised the heck out of me. But he played 32.
That is surprising.
He played 32 minutes a game. The percentages are real good, and that gives him a nice boost. He got a steal last year. He's another one of those guys who, in a deep league, can get kind of sneaky because I don't think a lot of people are on him, especially in that 100, 110, 120 range.
He certainly is a boring player.
And he's not a guy I'm super looking for in a standard league where like 140 players are owned. He's going to be like maybe 100, probably a little bit below that. So that's not really something I want.
Yeah, I'm not looking for him in my standard league, but
so
if you're in a deeper, kind of a bigger league or a deeper league, he should be picked up because he's going to play the minutes.
We need a good name for that kind of guy. That's what we need.
I mean,
because he's technically standard league valuable, right? But in a head-to-head league, you're getting more value from streaming that spot or having someone with a lot higher upside.
Yeah,
but he's super valuable in a deep league.
Who is like the king? Who's like the waiver wire whore? He's not really the waiver wire whore because you're not picking him up.
Right.
Well, the waiver wire whore is the guy that everyone's picking up. He's had to go with everybody in the league.
And like these guys aren't super sexy, you know what I mean? Like, okay, they get picked up, they get used, maybe they get dumped, but I can tell you there have been leagues that I've played in the last couple of years, and especially last year when Courtney Lee was providing some good value, where like I just constantly streamed him every time the Knicks played. Like nobody else wanted his ass. But every time the Knicks played, I'm like, I could use Courtney Lee's 11 points and a 3.5 and a couple rebounds and 2 assists and a steal and good percentages. Sure, I'll take that.
Yeah, why not? Huh. We're going to have to come up with a good name. I don't know if it should be – I'm leaning towards 2 genres. One would be an older player who was not sexy yet relevant and – just, mediocre name, mediocre stat lines, but everyone knows who he is. So I'm leaning one way, and another I'm leaning towards like a mid-range C-level celebrity.
Oh, now that sounds good.
Those are my 2 choices. So actually, let's have the listeners chime in. If you have an idea of what to call the Courtney Lees of the world. The guys who, you should probably draft him at 120, but there's no reason to, and you don't want to, and you're not going to. And he's just going to sit on the waiver wire, and he's occasionally going to be streamed. And no one wants to. He's not sexy anymore, or he was never sexy. So what celebrity was like never sexy but always around, and putting in a like an okay performance? You can't have like a guy who's an amazing actor but under the radar. Like that doesn't work.
I'm with you there. Yeah, that's a hard name to get.
That is a hard name to get. So if you have any ideas, feel free to tweet at us. You can find me on Twitter at Watch the Boxes. And Tyler, where can they find you?
Oh man. I was gonna save this. No, I'm just kidding. You can find me at Watsy4444.
That's 4 4s for those counting at home. Get it to us about what we should call the Courtney Lees of the world. And if you're interested in joining us in the first annual
Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball League. Also, tweet at us, get at us, and we will send you an invite to the league. And Tyler, what format are we looking to do?
So we're gonna do head to head. All right, so that way you can all make fun of me and Mike when you guys win.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of head to head, so we're choosing head to head. So far, so good.
We're gonna do 9 cat, right? Because Mike loves his turnovers.
Listen, turnovers are important. Don't listen to anyone. Don't listen to anyone who says anything different, especially Josh Lloyd, who knows what he's talking about.
So we won't have that debate again. We had that last time. So yeah, and we're hoping to get a good league and just a good group of people who want to play and want to try to kick our butts, because that's my favorite kind of league.
Yeah, and it's also going to be good because if they're listening, they're going to know exactly who we like, who we don't like, what our rankings are, how we're going to draft. So you'll have the competitive advantage.
Oh, no way, man. I'm going for Ronnie Baker. We didn't talk about him.
Yeah, don't give away your picks.
Draft him first round. Come on, do it.
Actually, this whole the whole Courtney Lee discussion was just a subterfuge. That's not a word.
Mike makes up words. You know, we've got late in the podcast when Mike starts making up words.
Definitely. So yeah, I think that's it. We got through 3 more teams, and we're gonna hit 3 more here pretty soon. If you are like what you are hearing on this podcast, feel free to give us a rating or review wherever you are downloading and listening to your podcasts, or tell a friend, tell someone in your fantasy league, send them a link, and follow us on Twitter, and get to us if you'd like to join the upcoming league. And we will be back with more NBA team previews. So make sure you catch us on the next episode.